Today we are going to talk about the drugs sulfonamides. So in this lecture we are going to concentrate on these special learning objectives for this lecture. Classify sulfonamides with example, describe mechanism, spectrum, resistance and pharmacokinetics of sulfonamide, describe clinical uses, adverse effects, interactions and contraindications of sulfonamide. Then sulfonamides used topically and their uses, and constituents of cotrimoxazole, describe its mechanism, spectrum, uses, adverse effects and contraindications. Now, historical aspect. Sulfonamides were the first chemotherapeutic agent or antimicrobial agent proved effective for prevention and treatment of systemic infection. Sulfonamides were the first antimicrobial agent. Sulfonamides were the first antimicrobial agent or first chemotherapeutic agent effective against pyogenic bacterial infection or effective for prevention and treatment of systemic infection. The first sulfonamide, the name of the first sulfonamide is the Prontosil. This Prontosil was nothing but the brick red dye. An infant was cured of staphylococcal septicemia, and that staphylococcal septicemia at that time it was 100% fatal at that time, and it was cured by this Prontosil. Means Prontosil was effective against this staphylococcal septicemia. By 1937, it becomes clear that Prontosil was broken down in the body to release the sulfanylamide, which was effective in meningococcal infection and puerperal sepsis. Right? All derivations of sulfanylamide are grouped as sulfonamide. All the derivatives of sulfanylamide are grouped as sulfonamide. Now the structure that you can see here, it's a structure of the sulfanylamide. It's a structure of sulfanylamide. So here you can see at the fourth position the free amino group in the para position N4, or at the fourth position this free amino group which is responsible for its antibacterial activity, or it is required for its antibacterial activity. And this N1 position is required, or which governs the solubility, potency and pharmacokinetic properties. So this fourth position is for the antibacterial activity, and one position which governs the solubility, potency and pharmacokinetic properties of the sulfonamide. Now how will you classify them? They are classified on the basis of duration of action. They are classified on the basis of duration of action. So here you can see shorter acting, intermediate acting and longer acting. And for the special purpose, means for the topical use. So shorter acting drugs like sulfadiazine is a shorter acting. There is one more drug, that is sulfadoxazole and sulfadiazine. These are the shorter acting drugs. Then intermediate acting drugs like sulfamethoxazole is a intermediate acting. Longer acting drugs like sulfamethopyrazine and sulfadoxine, these are the longer acting drugs. And used topically for the special purpose like sodium sulfacetamide, sulfasalazine, silver sulfadiazine, mafenide. These are used systemically for special purpose or used topically for the special purpose. The sulfasalazine, as you can see, it is used systemically for the special purpose like ulcerative colitis and rheumatoid arthritis. Now the mechanism of action. As you can see, the structure of sulfonamide is similar to para-amino benzoic acid. They have structure similar to para-amino benzoic acid or BABA. Sulfonamides, they are structurally similar to the para-amino benzoic acid, and they competitively inhibit the enzyme folate synthetase in the bacteria. Competitively inhibit the enzyme, which enzyme? Folate synthetase in the bacteria, and therefore prevent the synthesis of folic acid, and thus synthesis of DNA is inhibited, and so the bacterial multiplication, that means it will prevent the growth and multiplication of the bacteria. It will prevent the growth and multiplication of bacteria, right? And that's how it exerts its bacteriostatic action. How it exerts its bacteriostatic action? There is a structural similarity between para-amino benzoic acid and sulfonamide, so that they will compete with each other. They compete with each other for the enzyme folate synthetase in the bacteria. They will compete with the enzyme folate synthetase in the bacteria. Because of that, it will prevent the synthesis of folic acid. If there is no folic acid, then there will be no DNA synthesis. If there will be no DNA synthesis, then there will be no growth and replication of bacteria. Means, for the growth and multiplication of bacteria, we need folic acid. For the growth and multiplication of bacteria needs folic acid, and the sulfonamide will prevent the synthesis of folic acid by inhibiting the enzyme folate synthetase in the bacteria. Now, the susceptible bacteria or susceptible microorganism must synthesize their own folic acid, right? They must synthesize their own folic acid. Then only that susceptible bacteria will going to die. Susceptible bacteria must synthesize their own folic acid. They must synthesize their own folic acid. Then only that bacteria will die, because it will prevent the synthesis of folic acid. Then it will prevent the DNA synthesis, and ultimately it will prevent the growth and multiplication of the bacteria. So susceptible organism must synthesize their own folic acid. Then only it will going to effective in that particular microorganism. Sulfonamides will be effective in that particular microorganism. Now, mammalian cells or human, they used preformed folic acid which is present in the diet. We do not synthesize our own folic acid. What we use? We used preformed folic acid which is present in the diet, and hence mammalian cells, they are unaffected. Why it is unaffected? Because we used preformed folic acid. So we are less affected or not affected. This is the mechanism of action that we have already discussed. We'll see one more time. Para-amino benzoic acid along with pteridine or glutamic acid. Para-amino benzoic acid is converted into the dihydrofolic acid with the help of enzyme folate synthetase, or it is also called as the dihydropterol synthetase. This dihydrofolic acid is converted into tetrahydrofolic acid with the help of enzyme folate reductase or dihydrofolate reductase. This tetrahydrofolic acid is responsible for the purine synthesis, and ultimately DNA synthesis will be there. And this DNA is required for the growth and multiplication of the bacteria. For the DNA synthesis, after that there is a growth and replication or multiplication of the bacteria. But these sulfonamides, they will compete with the para-amino benzoic acid. Sulfonamides, they will compete with this sulfonamides, they will compete with the para-amino benzoic acid, and they competitively inhibit the enzyme dihydrofolate reductase. Dihydrofolate reductase or dihydrofolate synthase. Dihydrofolate synthase or folate synthase. And it will inhibit or it will prevent the formation of folic acid, which is required for the growth and replication of the bacteria. Now, antibacterial spectrum. Antibacterial spectrum, so initially or earlier, they were active against wide range of microorganisms. Earlier, there is a wide spectrum. Wide spectrum means they were active against a wide range of microorganisms. At present, spectrum becomes narrow, or the spectrum of activity is narrowed due to development of resistance. At present, what is the current status of sulfonamide? Narrow spectrum. Why? Due to development of resistance. The organisms which are effective against, or the organisms against which sulfonamides are still active, means we can use this sulfonamide against gram-positive cocci like Streptococcus pyogenes, Staphylococcus aureus, pneumococci, gram-negative cocci like meningococci, gonococci, gram-negative bacilla like H. influenza, H. ducreyi, Vibrio cholerae, E. coli, Shigella. Others like Nocardia, Actinomyces, Chlamydia, Toxoplasma, Plasmodia. Means many group like Streptococci, Haemophilus influenzae, Haemophilus ducreyi, Pneumococci, Vibrio cholerae, Chlamydia, Nocardia, Actinomycetes, or we can say that the sensitivity of gonococci, meningococci, E. coli, Shigella is variable. Then at a higher concentration, some strains of Klebsiella proteus may be sensitive. Klebsiella proteus may be sensitive, but at a higher concentration. But majority of strains of Staphylococci, Enterococci or Pseudomonas are highly resistant. The sulfonamides are also effective against protozoal infection like Toxoplasma and Plasmodia. So we can say that earlier it has very wide spectrum. It was effective, or they were active against a wide range of microorganisms, but at present that spectrum becomes narrow because of development of resistance. Now, organisms which are resistant to the sulfonamides like gonococci nowadays, pneumococci, Staphylococcus aureus, meningococci, E. coli, Shigella, streptococcal pyogenes. Majority of the Staphylococci, Enterococci and Pseudomonas are highly resistant. This is the current status of sulfonamide. Now, what is the cause for the resistance? Cause for the resistance is the mutation. The development of resistance may be due to increased production of PABA. Increased production of PABA because there is a development of mutation. Structural chromosomal alteration in the DNA. So bacteria produce increased production of PABA. If they increase production of PABA, so that they have to compete with, means sulfonamide compete with the folate synthase. But if they are having more and more PABA, so it becomes resistant because of mutation. Then affinity. Their folate synthetase enzyme has low affinity for the sulfonamide. Then there is an altered metabolic pathway altered metabolic pathway. So these bacteria, they will synthesize their folic acid with some alternative pathway. Rather than using the normal metabolic pathway, they use some alternative pathway. Then there is a efflux pump mechanism. Efflux pump mechanism means from that bacteria, that drug will get expelled out. They will not going to concentrate inside the bacteria. That efflux pump mechanism, all the drug will get expelled from the bacteria. Cross resistance is also seen. Cross resistance is also seen among sulfonamide, but cross resistance does not occur between sulfonamide and other antimicrobial agents. Now, pharmacokinetic properties. On oral administration, very well absorbed from the stomach and intestine, small intestine. They are very well absorbed orally from the stomach and small intestine. The plasma protein binding varies from 10 to 95%. There is extensive plasma protein binding, especially to the albumin. Binding varies among the different agents. Some of them are highly bound and longer acting. Highly plasma protein bound and longer acting, the drugs like sulfadoxine and sulfamethoxyrazine, they are highly plasma protein bound, they are longer acting. The duration of action of sulfadoxine or sulfamethoxyrazine almost for the week or for the 7 days. Widely distributed throughout the body fluids. They have wide distribution in the body and they will enter into the body fluids such as pleural, peritoneal, synovial and ocular fluids. Means they are wider distribution in all the body fluids like pleural, peritoneal, synovial, ocular, and they achieve effective concentration in the CSF and prostatic fluid. They achieve effective concentration or therapeutic concentration or optimum concentration in the CSF and prostatic fluid, so that we can easily treat meningitis and prostatitis because they achieve effective concentration in the CSF and prostatic fluid. It will cross blood-brain barrier and placental barrier, so it may cause teratogenicity and there will be CNS side effects also because it crosses blood-brain barrier. Metabolism through acetylation reaction by a non-microsomal enzyme in the liver. So there is less chances of drug interaction because it is metabolized by the non-microsomal enzyme in the liver, but by the reaction that is called as the acetylation. There are only few drugs which are metabolized by the acetylation reaction. Now excretion. They are mainly excreted through kidney, through glomerular filtration and active tubular secretion, right? The part of the secreted sulfonamides may be reabsorbed later on. Their acetylated form or their acetylated metabolites are more soluble at alkaline pH. Okay, acetylated metabolites, they are more soluble in the alkaline pH, and therefore if urine is made alkaline and fluid intake is increased, the toxicity and crystalluria is less likely. What they are saying? Acetylated metabolites of sulfonamide, acetylated form of or acetylated metabolites are more soluble in the alkaline pH, and therefore if urine is made alkaline and fluid intake is increased, the toxicity and crystalluria is less likely. An acetylated form which accumulates in the blood in patients with renal failure. If there is a renal dysfunction, the acetylated form they may get in the blood and it may cause toxicity. Now drugs which are metabolized by the acetylation reaction. Drugs which are metabolized by the acetylation reaction are the first is the sulfonamide. How will you remember? SHIP, SHIP, sulfonamide, hydralazine, isoniazide, procainamide. These are the drugs which are metabolized by the acetylation reaction. There are only few drugs which are metabolized by the acetylation reaction. Now what are the adverse effects? Adverse effects of the sulfonamide. They are common and may be serious. They are common and may be serious if patient is hypersensitive to sulfonamide. because they are sulfur containing compound. Sulfur containing compound, so they are more hypersensitive. So there is a chance of hypersensitivity reactions. So it may cause GI side effects like nausea, vomiting, abdominal discomfort, stomatitis sometimes, nausea, vomiting, abdominal discomfort, right? GI side effects. Then next most common is the crystalluria. And this crystalluria is because of the poor solubility of the sulfonamides and its acetylated metabolites in the acidic urine. Because as I told you, acetylated metabolites are more soluble in the alkaline pH. So they are more soluble in the alkaline urine, but they are poor soluble in the acidic urine. They are poor soluble in the acidic urine. So acetylated metabolites in the acidic urine. So irritation produced by the deposited crystals in the kidney that may leads to hematuria, oliguria. That may leads to the hematuria or oliguria. So how will you minimize this crystalluria? If urine is made alkaline and fluid intake is increased, so that the toxicity and crystalluria is less likely, by alkalization of the urine, by making the urine alkalization by using sodium bicarbonate. How will you make the urine alkaline? By using the sodium bicarbonate, we can make the urine alkaline, and in that condition, the solubility of the sulfonamide will increase, and acetylated metabolites, they are more soluble in the alkaline pH, and there will be less chance of hematuria, oliguria or crystalluria. These are the sulfur containing compounds, so they are more likely to produce hypersensitivity reaction. 2 to 5%, they are very common. They are more likely to produce hypersensitivity reactions like rashes, urticaria, drug fever, arthritis, serum sickness, exfoliative dermatitis, because they are sulfur containing compounds. So there is a serious type of exfoliative dermatitis or Steven-Johnson syndrome. Serious type like Steven-Johnson syndrome, exfoliative dermatitis, photosensitivity reaction, serum sickness like syndrome, polyarthritis nodosa may occur, but they are less common. Hepatitis, focal hepatitis or diffuse necrosis may occur due to hypersensitivity or direct toxicity. So hypersensitivity reactions are very common because they are sulfur containing compounds. Then hemolytic anemia or blood dyscrasias are rare but may prove fatal, like hemolytic anemia, and hemolytic anemia are more common in case of G6P deficiency people or hypersensitivity reactions. Hemolytic anemia is because of the G6P deficiency. When they exposed to these drugs like sulfonamide, they may cause hemolysis or agranulocytosis, thrombocytopenia, aplastic anemia, methemoglobinemia. So these are the chances of hemolytic anemia in patients of G6P deficiency. Then there is the kernicterus. Kernicterus, or what is the effect on fetus and neonate? They may cause hyperbilirubinemia in the newborn baby. It causes kernicterus, means it will displace bilirubin from plasma protein binding site. It will displace bilirubin from the plasma protein binding site, and it causes hyperbilirubinemia. Since the blood-brain barrier is not well developed, in the newborn babies, that bilirubin will enter into the brain and may get deposited there, and it causes kernicterus in newborn baby, because there is a displacement of the bilirubin from the plasma protein binding site, and blood-brain barrier is not well developed in the newborn babies or in infants. So it may that excess bilirubin enter into the brain and may get deposited there, and it causes kernicterus. Steven-Johnson syndrome is a part of the hypersensitivity reaction, which is characterized by fever, erythema multiforme, ulceration of the mucous membrane, and it is highly, what we can say, it is very serious reaction, but it is very less likely. Like Steven-Johnson syndrome, it is serious type, but it is very less common. Now, therapeutic uses of sulfonamides. Systemic uses of sulfonamides are rare. Systemic use of sulfonamides are rare, means suppressive therapy of chronic UTI or in uncomplicated urinary tract infection or streptococcal pharyngitis or gum infection or lymphogranuloma venerum. Now we will discuss the individual drugs. Sulfasalazole. The sulfasalazole is a shorter acting. Its absorption on oral administration is very rapid oral absorption, shorter acting, and more soluble sulfonamides. So it will considered as a soluble sulfonamide. So there is a minimal crystal urea and renal toxicity. Sulfasalazole, shorter acting, rapid absorption, more soluble, so minimal crystal urea and renal toxicity. It is most soluble sulfonamide, we can say that. So less crystalluria and renal toxicity, less effect on the kidney, less crystalluria. The next drug is the sulfadiazine. The sulfadiazine good penetrability in the brain and CSF. It achieves effective concentration in the CSF. So it was the preferred compound for the meningitis because it crosses blood-brain barrier. It will achieve effective concentration in CSF, so we can treat meningitis. So it's a drug of choice for the toxoplasmosis. It is a drug of choice for the toxoplasmosis with pyrimethamine. It is used along with pyrimethamine for the toxoplasmosis. Then sulfamethoxazole. Sulfamethoxazole, it is similar to sulfasalazole, but its absorption and rate of elimination are slower than the sulfasalazole. So it has intermediate duration of action. Why intermediate? Because its absorption and rate of elimination is slower. So that intermediate duration of action. Its oral bioavailability is almost 100%. Oral bioavailability is almost 100%. Slow oral absorption and urinary excretion that may result into the intermediate duration of action. It is combined with the trimethoprim, and we call it as a fixed dose combination of cotrimoxazole because the half-life of both the drugs, sulfamethoxazole and trimethoprim, is almost similar, 10 hours. Its acetylated metabolite is insoluble in urine and it may cause crystalluria. The sulfamethoxazole is used for the systemic infection. It is also used in the urinary tract infection, and it is the most commonly used in combination with trimethoprim as cotrimoxazole. Now sulfadoxine and sulfamethoxyrazine, longer acting drugs, longer acting compounds. Action or duration of action is more than 1 week, 7 days, because of high plasma protein binding and very slow renal excretion. So this sulfadoxine is combined with the pyrimethamine and it is used in the treatment of prophylaxis and treatment of chloroquine resistant Plasmodium falciparum. It is used also in the treatment of pneumocystic carinine pneumonia or pneumocystic giroveccae pneumonia in AIDS patient or in case of toxoplasmosis. Sulfadoxine is combined with the pyrimethamine. It will inhibit the protozoal dihydrofolate reductase, and it is used in the treatment of prophylaxis and treatment of the chloroquine resistant Plasmodium falciparum, pneumocystic giroveccae pneumonia in the AIDS patient and toxoplasmosis. These drugs are used, the sulfadoxine and sulfamethoxyrazine, they are used only for the prophylactic purpose in high-risk patients. They are only used for the prophylactic cases where risk is high because of severe allergic reactions, including Stevens-Johnson syndrome. These drugs are not useful for treatment. Of acute bacterial infection because plasma concentration achieved is subtherapeutic. So these are the drugs for the prophylactic purpose, not for the therapeutic purpose. Sulfacetamide. The sulfacetamide, it is the derivative of sulfanylamide. It has very high aqueous solubility. And It is used as a sodium salt for the ocular infection, sodium sulfacetamide. It is effective against the Chlamydia oculogenitalicis, and hence it is used for the ocular infection. Means it is mostly used for the ocular infection. Why? High aqueous solubility, good penetration on the topical administration, low cost, less allergy, non-irritant nature of a drug, and all these properties will make it more effective in the eye infections or ocular infections. The next drug is the silver sulfadiazine. Silver sulfadiazine, they slowly release the silver ions which are toxic to the microbes, but this silver sulfadiazine, they are not effective against in presence of pus, because pus contain PABA. Pus contain PABA, and in presence of PABA it will not going to affect the microorganism, because pus contain PABA and you have to compete with the PABA, or you have to compete with the folate synthetase. Now, what is the limitation in burning sensation and severe pain when it applied to the raw surface? When the silver sulfadiazine, when it is applied to the raw surface, there is a severe pain and burning sensation. And how it is act? It will act by releasing the silver ions which are toxic to the microbes. Then mafenide, it is effective against Pseudomonas clostridia, which is not inhibited by the typical sulfonamides, and it is active in presence of pus. This is the very important property. It is effective in presence of pus, and its metabolites are carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. So it may cause metabolic acidosis. Now, next drug is the sulfasalazine, which is used in the treatment of ulcerative colitis and rheumatoid arthritis. Sulfasalazine. The sulfasalazine drugs like osalzine and basalzine. So, oral absorption is very poor. They produces mainly local action in the GIT. It will broken down. Sulfasalazine is broken down by the colonic bacteria. It will broken down into by the colonic bacteria into sulfapyridine and 5-amino-salicylic acid. This sulfapyridine is effective in rheumatoid arthritis, and 5-amino-salicylic acid produces anti-inflammatory action locally in the inflammatory bowel disease, or in case of ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. Now, next is the cotrimoxazole. Cotrimoxazole is the fixed dose combination. It's a fixed dose combination of the sulfamethoxazole 400 mg and trimethoprim 80 mg. It's a rational fixed dose combination, we can say. It's a rational fixed dose combination. So, the dose ratio is 5:1. And plasma concentration ratio is 20:1. As you can see, dose is 80 mg of trimethoprim and sulfamethoxazole 400 mg. So, dose ratio is 5:1 and plasma concentration ratio is 20:1. Now, why is it so? Because trimethoprim is rapidly absorbed and has very larger volume of distribution, and thus it will concentrated in many tissues. So that the optimum synergistic effect is observed when plasma concentration of trimethoprim and sulfamethoxazole is 1:20. The optimum synergistic effect is seen when plasma concentration of trimethoprim and sulfamethoxazole is 1:20. This ratio can be achieved in plasma by combining these two agents in the fixed dose ratio of 1:5 or 5:1. Means 80 mg of trimethoprim and 400 mg of sulfamethoxazole. Trimethoprim has larger volume of distribution and thus concentrated in the many tissues. Plasma concentration obtained is lower as compared to the sulfamethoxazole. Plasma protein binding is 40% for trimethoprim and 65% for sulfamethoxazole. Half-life of both the drugs are similar, 10 hours, and hence they can combine together because of similar duration of action. Now, mechanism of action is almost similar, like it will cause sequential blockade. It will cause sequential blockade of different enzymes in the same metabolic pathway. It will cause sequential blockade or sequentially block the synthesis of folic acid in the same metabolic pathway. So it will produce synergistic effect. It will produce synergistic effect, means individually these drugs, they are bacteriostatic, but when they are combined together it becomes bactericidal. So combination therapy, it will reduce the MIC of both agents. It will reduce the MIC or minimum inhibitory concentration of the both agents. It will widen the spectrum of activity and it will reduce the chances of resistance when they are combined together. So this is the mechanism of action of cotrimoxazole. This is the para-amino benzoic acid. Para-amino benzoic acid is converted into dihydrofolic acid. So this step is inhibited by the sulfonamide, which competes with the PABA by inhibiting the folate synthetase enzyme. Dihydrofolic acid is converted into the tetrahydrofolic acid with the help of enzyme dihydrofolate reductase, and this step is inhibited by the trimethoprim. So these two different drugs will going to inhibit these two different enzymes in the same metabolic pathway of the folic acid synthesis. So this folic acid, which is required for the growth and replication of the bacteria. So we inhibit the enzyme and we inhibit the synthesis of folic acid, which is required for growth and replication. Resistance is less or slow to develop when they are used in combination, but there is a mutational or plasmid mediated acquisition of the dihydrofolate reductase having lower affinity for the inhibitor for the cotrimoxazole, but resistance is less likely to develop and they are slow to develop to the clotrimoxazole when they are used in combination. Adverse effects are similar to sulfonamide, like GIT side effects, nausea, vomiting, abdominal discomfort will be there. Adverse effects are less common but more serious, like sulfonamides may cause allergy, rash, fever, or granulocytosis, renal toxicity because it's a sulfur containing compound. Trimethoprim high doses can cause megaloblastic anemia. Due to inhibit conversion of folic acid to the folic acid, it may also cause methemoglobinemia, thrombocytopenia. Cotrimoxazole, it may cause aplastic anemia. Teratogenicity is common because it will cause folate deficiency, and it may also lead to methemoglobinemia, thrombocytopenia, hemolytic anemia when it is given in the full-term pregnancy. When it is given in full-term pregnancy, it may cause this methemoglobinemia, hemolytic anemia. So it is teratogenic in nature. But still, cotrimoxazole is a drug of choice in case of pneumocystic carinae pneumoniae in AIDS patient, nocardia, Yersinia enterocolita, then Pseudomonas cepacia and Stenotrophomas. These are the microorganisms which are still sensitive. These are the microorganisms, they are sensitive to the cotrimoxazole, like pneumocystic carinae pneumoniae, nocardia, Yersinia enterocolita, Pseudomonas cepacia. Then these are the alternatives, means you can use this cotrimoxazole as an alternative in E. coli, Salmonella typhi, Shigella, Brucella, Vibrio, Listeria, methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus, Moraxella. Now, therapeutic uses of cotrimoxazole. When you are using combination, it is used in the treatment of urinary tract infection. They are used in the treatment of urinary tract infection. But which urinary tract infection? Uncomplicated lower urinary tract infection. It is used in the drug of choice in the uncomplicated urinary tract infection. Uncomplicated lower urinary tract infection, which is caused by E. coli. Right? It is given in a full dose, that means 2 single strength tablet twice a day for 5 to 10 days, depending upon the sensitivity. And it is also useful for the prophylaxis of the recurrent UTI. It is also useful for the prophylaxis of the recurrent urinary tract infection. So it is most commonly used for the urinary tract infection. Then pneumocystic carinae pneumonia. It is a drug of choice for the treatment and prevention of pneumonia caused by pneumocystic carinae pneumonia in immunocompromised patient or in patients of AIDS. So this is the common causative organism. For severe pneumonia in AIDS patient or in case of neutropenic patient. So cotrimoxazole is a drug of choice. And is also used for the prophylactic in a dose of double strength tablet daily, as well as for the treatment. It can be continued for 2 to 3 weeks or more depending on the response and toxicity. Right? Then it is also used for the respiratory tract infection. Respiratory tract infections like chronic bronchitis, fasciomaxillary infection, otitis media caused by gram-positive cocci and H influenza. It is also used for the treatment of enteric fever or typhoid. Initially, it was the drug of choice. However, now the drug of choice is ciprofloxacin or cephalosporins. If strains of Salmonella typhi are sensitive, cotrimoxazole is a cheaper alternative as compared to the ciprofloxacin. Right? It is a cheaper alternative. Then bacterial diarrheas or GIT infections or dysentery, which is because of the E. coli, Shigella, Yersinia enterocolitis, which causes bacillary dysentery, or diarrhea due to Salmonella, Campylobacter jejuni, Yersinia enterocolitica. It is less effective than fluoroquinolones for diarrhea due to cholera. But it can be also used in case of chancroid as an alternative to the azithromycin. It is also used in the treatment of granuloma inguinale as alternative drug to doxycycline or erythromycin. So these are the common available formulations of cotrimoxazole. For adult, single strength 80-140, 1:5. Double strength 160-80, 800, 1:5 ratio is maintained. 80 to 400. Single strength. Double strength 160-800. Now for children's, single strength is 20 to 100, 1:5 ratio is maintained. Dose ratio you have to maintain. Syrup per 5 ml 40 to 200. Parenterally you can give per 5 ml injection 80-400. Cotrimazine is a combination of trimethoprim plus sulfadiazine, but here ratio is 9:41. 9:41, cotrimazine, which is not so popular. Then eclaprim, it's an analog of trimethoprim, which is given intravenously, equally effective to the linezolide. It is given intravenously. It is given as IV infusion over 60 to 90 minutes in 5% of dextrose. Means 80 plus 400 per 5 ml in 125 ml of 5% dextrose. It is given in the 5% dextrose, and it is given in pneumocystic carinae pneumonia, shigellosis, typhoid, nocardiasis, gram-negative bacilli in emergency. So these are the various combinations that we use. Septran, we all know. Sulfamethoxazole and trimethoprim, or cotrimoxazole. The brand name is Septran. 1:5 combination. Then cotrimazine, trimethoprim plus sulfadiazine, 9:41. Pyrimethamine plus sulfadoxine, Fansidar is the brand name, which is used for the chloroquine resistant falciparum malaria. Pyrimethamine plus sulfadiazine for the CNS infection or meningitis because of toxoplasmosis. So this is all about the sulfonamide that we have discussed. Thank you.